This is Mongolian Mindset, and today, me, Christian, and CSJ are going to be talking about P. Diddy, his future, everything that's encompassing his life right now, what we think is really going to be going on. I think this is going to be a very interesting topic. I don't think anyone's attacking this from a depth typology standpoint, and you got some of the best people here. I don't think anyone. I don't. I put my money on me and CSJ any day against anybody in the type sphere. I don't give a fuck what no one says. So we talking about P Diddy, okay? So CSJ, what do you think is going on there? Like, what do you think is going to happen with the jail situation? Just off that alone.
Well, I mean, if what we've learned with basically people who are into sex trafficking in terms of his high profile, they oftentimes are put in a suicide watch, and then all of a sudden they end up being suicided. And then you have people like, some other guy that looks like Epstein being escorted out, and then it's not really Epstein, right? So like, I think he's going to get Epstein personally. I think it's like a stage suicide and having some patsy guy there who's actually like killed off or whatever, and then they like roll out the corpse and it's not even him or whatever. And I think he'll be off scot-free in some other foreign land or whatever on a completely different name, different identity, different whatever. Like, because let's be honest, like if you look at it, let's look at it. Like, you can't do what P. Diddy did or does without a network. You can't do it without a support structure. You really can't. Like yeah, he's a billionaire, whatever. Like, all the money in the world doesn't mean shit if you don't have a support structure. There's other people supporting him with his, bullshit, right? Other people support it. You got Harvey Weinstein, right? He already went down for it. You got Bill Cosby, right? He already went down for it, right? You got Epstein. You got Ghislaine Maxwell, right? All these people, right? And then like you look at the like I saw the list of people that were involved in P. Diddy's parties, right?
Yeah.
I saw people involved in his parties, right? And like you got their white parties, you got the whole like Billie Eilish thing, with how she's like trying to be informed with their music about what happened at white parties. You got the Justin Bieber bullshit as well. That's a whole other like can of worms, right? And let's be honest,
sure.
This guy, yeah, it's for sure, man. Chris Brown, like Rihanna, even like there's so many names on this list, right? And these same names, if I remember correctly, people like they were involved with Epstein too, right? So like from my point of view, it's like, Epstein was like really probably like the main guy, the East Coast guy, also, serving the international crowd from the East Coast perspective. It seems like P. Diddy was their West Coast guy, with their little sex trafficking ring or whatever, and like you got this argument with Denzel Washington come out of nowhere being like, hey, you don't respect anybody because supposedly he's seen something or whatever. But like, if you see something, why don't you say something? Why don't any of these celebrities actually go on record? Maybe it's because like P. Diddy's got some dirt on them or something, or maybe Epstein had some dirt on them. Who knows? But like that's literally how Hollywood works. It's also how like the political arena works. Yep. It's all about how much dirt you have. It's all about dirt. Like the thing is that like, we live in a society, for example, like if you got dirt on someone, that's some serious shit. Because like, for example, there's so many laws and so many rules that mind temple types, who ESTJs, right? INFPs, ISTPs, ENFJs, those four types, those are mind temple types. And mind temple has this thing where they have a deadly sin. It's called sloth, right? They get a little lazy and shit. They have this thing where they create so many rules so that they can be lazy. Because it's like, oh, these people are breaking the rules, but we're going to give special treatment to the people that are breaking the rules that we like, and not enforce the rules against those people. But the people we don't like, we are going to enforce the rules against. You see, in my opinion, that makes for an absolute terrible society. And that's literally how I just feel, like from an extrovert feeling perspective, ethically speaking, that's literally how the world is looking right now. When it comes to the Epsteins of the world, when it comes to the Diddys of the world, right? Straight up. That's like literally how I see it. Like that guy like somehow became like some big time billionaire or whatever. And as much as I look at it, it's like, well, how? You know,
Mhm.
there's so many crazy rumors. Like, is he the reason like Tupac is dead? Is he the reason the Notorious Big is dead? You know, like, come on, man. Like Tupac, ENTP, badass, total. Like that man was the second coming of Malcolm X. You know, the third coming of Malcolm X was Kevin Samuels, but they whacked him too. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be straight. You know, and I'm just like thinking to myself, like, wow, apparently like ENTPs are not allowed to live. Is Tupac being ENTP? You know, you got Malcolm X being ENTP, etc. And they all getting whacked, you know, and then Notorious Big or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, so P. Diddy, you just killing your competition with the music? Is that what it's really about? Or is it about something? Did they know something about what you were up to, even all the way back then? Is that literally what it's all about? Was Pac actually working hard to actually, like, you know, expose the sex trafficking back then? Well, I mean, we don't know. We don't know that. But then, like, you have other people who were trying to expose it because there's all these rumors,
There was
you know,
one lady, yeah,
surrounding.
yeah. There was one lady
There's
who was going out for a while.
yeah, there's rumors about Anthony Bourdain getting in with Chester Bennington to do an expose documentary on what's going on in Hollywood, and both those guys got whacked too.
Yeah.
You see,
Well, the thing is,
like people.
I think
Go
the
ahead.
floodgates have opened. The only reason we're able to even talk about these people now, as opposed to before, is because alternative media is kind of growing. That's how you see, like, when
Podcast.
Cat Williams went on Shannon Sharp and he said this year is going to be the year of the truth. I think that's what he was kind of talking about, is because people are gaining platforms online that are being rivals to the traditional media. So now they have the balls to go out there and actually talk, because they know they can't get canceled. Because if they get canceled in traditional media, they have a career online. Whereas before, like, these people were gatekeepers in the music industry, in entertainment. So if you really crossed them or even tried to expose anything, there goes your career. There goes all your money, or you might even die in the case of, you know, Tupac or somebody else. So I think we have social media to thank for the information that we have now on these people, and there's only going to be more. Uh, now, about the list that you mentioned, the problem with that list is because everyone has to go through these gatekeepers to kind of start a career. You don't know which ones were actually involved in the things, or just a victim of them, or maybe they were just involved with the person for their career and not all the heinous acts, etc. So
Yeah, we don't know, and that's the thing. But like, when it comes down to it, like, all you gotta do is just get the victims to name names, and then you correlate how many victims, because there's 120. If I remember, 120
120.
people. So at least 120 counts of sexual assault, as an example. There's way more than that. But like, all they got to do is start naming names. And if you could verify as law enforcement, for example, that the victims are not talking to each other, that there's like no collusion or whatever, if you can eliminate collusion and see that the victims are naturally naming names, and then actually generate a correlation from that, then it becomes pretty serious from that perspective that there's something crazy going on. You know, like, because like there's so much evidence that shows that like P. Diddy, he utilizes, you know, coercive behavior, right? And I wouldn't say like he's so much of a groomer. I would say that like Epstein is more on the grooming side of sex trafficking. You know, Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, they're more on the groomer side. You know, a little more in Jeff's, but not so much P. Diddy. Whereas P. Diddy's more on the coercive side. He's hella coercive. Is that why, you know, Denzel Washington, you know, is walking around and like, let's see, like, let me double check like what I typed in previously. Let's see.
Denzel, I think his eyes. I think you had him ISTP.
now
Yeah, I have him as ISTP. Yeah,
Denzel was
and like
quoted
he's like,
as
you don't respect anybody.
they were quoting Denzel as him leaving the parties before the devil got there. I don't know if the devil was alluding to him, Diddy coming into the parties or whatever, but I heard that
Yeah,
quote.
but the thing is like, why is Denzel, you know, from a Christian point of view, actually causing his brother to stumble by associating with this? Because it is written, avoid the appearance of evil. You see what I'm saying? like I think Denzel needs to actually like strongly consider like where his moral fiber is, just as much as I have to strongly consider where my moral fiber is on a regular basis. Because like, I mean, uh, oftentimes people do not become conscious of their character flaws. Their character flaws are unconscious, and they need to actually spend some time doing some soul searching and actually looking at what exactly, where their failures are as a person as a result of that. And like the thing is that I maintain that Denzel is one of those people. I mean, the guy looks like super fucking ethical all the time. The guy is like all about problem solving. He's a very ethical human being. But why isn't he speaking out? Like what? Because of extroverted thinking nemesis? Is he worried about what the people think? Like, who gives a shit? Just tell the fucking truth. The problem is that we live in a society where when people tell the truth, they end up being put away in bars or worse. That's the problem.
I think you got to think about it from this perspective. Let's say you may want to tell the truth about something, but your friend, his friend, their friend are all colluded into that. You say something, they all go down. And you're gonna burn. They might. I mean, when it comes to like the stuff like that's why I think they're gonna kill P. Diddy, right? And the reason why I think they're gonna kill him is because there's just too many people that have been to his parties, too many high-ranking people, right? It's easier just to kill you and let the case go down, die, just like they did with Epstein, And even the government is withholding the names that were on Epstein's list, right? I believe the same thing is potentially going to happen with P. Diddy as well, because you just have too many names. They had freaking Leonardo DiCaprio, LeBron James, Beyonce. They were saying like Cat Williams got audio tapes of fucking P. Diddy sleeping with Beyonce. It's just like I just think it's just like the most interesting story, and like I think it's just going to shatter everyone's ego on like what's really going on in this world.
Right? Yeah, P. Diddy is literally hosting Herogasm every year, for the people that watch The Boys. Like he is Mr. Herogasm. The thing is that obviously like when you're in that situation, like I could imagine like, oh, he's got like a system, right? He's got some fucking system. He's got tiers of different people. Like, okay, these are the kind of guests that we just want to hang out. We're just bringing them in for notoriety or whatever, right? Notoriety, they kind of like promote this party or whatever. And then there's those other guests that have other special needs, because he's like some fucking pimp or whatever, and then like trying to set them up. Like, it's just disgusting. And like a 9-year-old, really? Like, oh God, that's just it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And like the allegations are insane. Granted, innocent until proven guilty. But the thing is that there's so much evidence, like even his ex-wife, like had her book or whatever. There's just so much eyewitness testimony. There's so much information that is going on around about Sean Combs. There's so much information out there. It's like, okay, what is like? You have to actually like take the time and take a look. Someone's got to take a look. Someone has to. I mean, I want to ask
you, how do you think he rose to power? Like, what you're thinking about? Like, how does somebody?
Okay, so I maintain cognitively that he's an ESFP, right? I maintain ESFP. He could be INTJ, but I'm more on the ESFP side for sure. He seems like
I was kind of thinking maybe INTJ. I was thinking maybe INTJ because he's just too ESFP, real sloppy. Right, like they are very sloppy with their work, right? While in the INTJ, they kind of craft it a little bit more. They'll craft like systems here, craft everything will be so systematic with everything. Do why ESFP when they do something, it's very sloppy and they can't keep it up for too long. Like this, I think, and it would have been way more out there.
This is why I maintain that like P. Diddy himself, like someone has something on him, and I think. He ain't the handler. I think he's the handled, personally. I personally think that he's just the face of it, of the operation. Much like Epstein was the operation, but it was Ghislaine Maxwell who was going out there recruiting the girls, and getting them set up or whatever. And like he's just, and Epstein's just the executor, but Ghislaine was like, like really behind it, doing the leadership bullshit. And then like P. Diddy, I think he's like Epstein. He's like I personally believe he was trapped. He was trapped. I think someone blackmailed him and forced him to go in this direction. And basically he's been having to be ride or die versus the person who's actually controlling him and has a lot on him. Maybe they blackmailed him at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Because that's what could happen to an SFP person in the SFP in that moment, is being blackmailed. If he is INTJ and he's like the mastermind piano, I don't think so. I personally don't think P. Diddy's that smart. I really, really don't think he's that smart. Like P. Diddy to me represents, like, you see the Hunger Games, and you're watching the film Catching Fire, and then you like see how the tributes are treated like sexual objects or sexual toys among the people in the Capitol and shit. P. Diddy's the guy who's facilitating that, but he's got President Snow behind him, fucking like, supporting him and shit. Mm-hmm. Okay. And like, what we don't know is who the President Snow character is, mm-hmm. behind the scenes. That's like, who he got, like, because the thing is like, P. Diddy is like probably like having this thing where he's like trying to survive or whatever, trying to survive because someone else is pulling his strings because they have something on him, because he's been blackmailed to be the executor in this situation. And then he ended up having the attitude, well, fuck it, I don't have a choice, so I'm just going to lean into it, basically. And then he became the thing that he was avoiding, that he just leaned into it as hard as he could. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, because
I think is going on.
It seems to me that he's that he kind of enjoys like the parties and the degeneracy, like from the talks and whatever. Well, he's almost like proud of it.
I'm not saying that's happening now. I'm just saying that how he started wasn't that way, but now he's entirely corrupt, entirely degenerate. From that perspective. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing, like, that's how it was going to start. It's like, maybe he did something wrong, something really grossly illegal at one point in time. Someone blackmailed him for that and then started to use him to create the sex trafficking operation. And then he leaned into it, and then he like became the sex trafficking operation to the point where like he identified it. He was it. He embodied it, right? Basically, at that perspective. And then, he draws enjoyment from it. Yeah,
I think the thing about P. Diddy to me is it seems as though like he's orchestrating everything from the black people perspective, right? That's why, like, what I'm seeing, like, all right, there may be a guy behind him, right? That's most likely predominantly probably white, right? And that person is using P. Diddy to get into the black circle, right? By getting the black celebrities and the, all those entertainers. And he's just using P. Diddy as a filter to do that. But P. Diddy seems to be, I don't think he ever thought he would ever get caught. Let's be honest. I don't think he ever thought he'd ever get caught.
Extra intuition demon.
Like he's been doing this so long but that's the problem with a lot of people. Like, it's not the first time you do something. The danger is when you keep doing something, because when you keep doing something, you open the door. It's just like Ted Bundy. The first time he raped somebody, killed somebody, he ain't gonna get caught. But the 30th, the 20th time, he starts getting sloppy with his work, and then eventually you're gonna get caught doing that. It's like a slippery progression to it. But I think that's pretty much like what happened with him. Is like he thought he's untouchable. How you run? There's on camera footage of you beating a woman. And I know those people saw you beat that woman, but you paid people to get that footage. And back then, you had enough power back then. But now, like, people kind of changing the terrain. And once they change the terrain, you think
it's the technology.
These people are your friends, but they're really not your friends.
Yeah, because like, he's losing.
He's cutthroat as fuck.
Because the thing is, like, the people in power are losing a hold on industries because of these alternative media sources, because of these other outlets that people have to communicate with others, the extra surveillance, because there's cameras everywhere now. You can't really hide what you're doing. So it's like these things can't be hidden as well as before, even with all that power. And another thing I'm going to say is, like, these things happen at every level. It's just we're giving a focus on P. Diddy because he's this powerful person. But we know that, for example, on college campuses, there's sharing of women and, like, degeneracy that happens because we live in a college town and we hear stories, and we've known things that have happened in that town that are kind of similar. The thing is, like, this is a highlight, in mainstream society now, so they're like surprised by it. But this happens at different levels all over the country as well. So we got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I think with what's going forward with P. Diddy, when you come from the Fed's perspective, I want to see how they're going to handle this. right? How are they going to handle this, right? Because the amount of people, they got like, did they say over thousands of videos? Over thousands of videos of people. And I know like those people are committing crimes as well. So what are they going to do? What's their main, like, what's their outcome here? Are they using P. Diddy to try to get a bigger fish? Because a lot of times the Fed will use somebody to try to get a bigger fish. Are they trying to get the people who are behind P. Diddy? But what's weird to me is kind of like they all kind of turned against the people with money, which is weird to me, right?
Well,
So what's your
more
take?
media attention, more it's just a bigger story, man. Like, you know, we know that the police force searches these people that are larger than life because it gives them like advertising, and you get funding based on that thing, based on how big the target is. So, you know, that's probably just it.
Yeah, I mean, CJ, you got anything else you want to say about that?
It's really difficult because there's so many interests present when it comes to law enforcement. But because of, the relationship between judges, prosecutors, and law enforcement has absolute power. If they want to beat your ass within an inch of your life, they can do it, and there's nothing that they can do. If they want to take your property, they can do it. There's nothing you can do. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They have absolute power.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the reality of the situation. That is the nation that we live in. A lot of people don't realize that because, most people want to do follow the mountain ball, which is go to school, go to college, get a job, don't stand out kind of a thing. They can do that. As soon as they stand out, then like, oh my God, I'm a victim of Mind Temple. Oh my God, I stood out. So they decide to enforce rules on me. They're not enforcing rules on everybody. They're enforcing rules on me because I stood out, you see? And it's not a fair environment, basically, from a lawful perspective. Because the way the rules are, you just walk down the street and you're breaking how many laws and you have no idea. And then they get to claim that ignorance of the law is a problem. And it's like, well, it's kind of impossible. It's kind of impossible because, like, human beings right now, especially in the United States of America, are all starving. People are starving. We're on the edge of going extinct. Don't believe me? Read the book Countdown. Seriously. Like, human beings are endangered right now. It's a very controversial hot take, but we're an endangered species. Read the book Countdown, and you'll see by 2045, which is the same year that singularity is supposed to come, according to Ray Kurzweil, that we are going to run out of male sperm. That sucks for us. And because we have these risks, we need to be in a situation where we're valuing the proper things. But the problem is that the way that the United States government is actually structured right now with their lobbyists and their, environmental protection agency or Department of Agriculture, these types of things, it's creating these standards and these rules with toxicity out of control. No one actually has any real health because the thing is that the system is set up, according to Cass Sunstein, his complete life system, which is we're going to screw over the youngest people, and we're going to screw over the elderly and preserve the middle. The problem is that when that happens, is that you end up losing population, and and this is why we end up having anti-natalism movements, etc. And this is why fertility is an all-time low. These problems are happening.
I think it's what they say the fertility for male is almost at the point to where it's considered low, and a lot of times it's like the health and the food and all that stuff that's going on now that's causing all of those problems. I actually read a couple stuff. Yeah.
So when you combine that with what's actually going on in Hollywood, right, with P. Diddy, with Weinstein, with Epstein, Maxwell, and all these other people. Robert Bryant, he was on the show with me last time. Mm-hmm. He told me a story about this blog called Crazy Days and Crazy Nights. And in this blog, Robert Downey Jr., according to him, was writing under a pseudonym, exposing all of the bullshit inside of Hollywood, right? And that man ended up in jail. Was he writing Crazy Days and Crazy Nights before he went to jail? Or is that something that happened after the fact? there's been so many people who have tried to come out about the bullshit. What about Macaulay Culkin and Pizza Underground, for example? You know, and how that, like, there's so many people out there between their music, the art that they're producing, trying to expose the fact that there's literal slavery in the United States of America, literal sex slavery, which is absolutely fundamentally terrible. And, you know, there's a lot of research out there that goes to show. And so in the same way that, like, you know, society is so toxic that it's destroying our fertility, it's also in the same way society is so toxic that sex slavery is actually common.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't realize just how common it is. People don't realize how, hey, maybe even your child will get caught up in it. Maybe even you will get caught up in it, or your daughter, or whatever. You just don't know. But like, it's so common. Like just in the place that I live within the United States of America, since moving here, I've heard of 7 abductions of children. Like, it's insane. Like, it is common. Like, there's a certain part of town that you don't go to with a child because that's where children disappear. You see what I'm saying? Like, and a lot of people don't even, they choose not to pay attention to this because everyone is so focused on just trying to make rent.
Yeah,
That's trying to pay their bills that they don't even have the time or the effort to look at anything else. And that's how the American populace is controlled, by making everything so expensive that their own survival is based on working really hard, such that, because here's the problem, if you allow Americans to have time on their hands, what happens? Change, revolution, exposure. You can't allow the American people to have time on their hands.
You know what's crazy? The rent, like you mentioned, like, because the economy itself is booming, right? Like, if you look at just the economy as a whole, GPD, like how the economy is going, it's actually doing very well. But like you said, like, the rent is very specific to affecting a certain type of person in America. Basically, the middle class, the working class, right? So
how is the economy doing so well when we're taxed? If the government has the right to print money, they should not have the right to tax us. It's just that simple.
I'm just saying objectively, as a form of productivity, the economy is doing well. I'm not saying I agree with the tax rate or anything like that. I'm just saying as far as productivity goes. But then it's doing really bad in the ways that affect the middle class only. You know, like the high class people that have a lot of money, they're doing really well. Their assets are doing well. Everything's going well. But when you just focus on the working class, like you said, they're just focused on the rent because it's a rent crisis is what's going on, right? Like, that's the main thing that's just inflated past, you know, basically what working class people can afford. So they can only work to pay rent. They can't think about anything else, you know? So
can't think about anything else. I mean, I can't think of anything else. I mean, like, even me personally right now, it's been a struggle to make rent. It has. It's hard. Look, I'm 37 years old, right? I should have, you know, white picket fence, whatever. I should already have my house or whatever, right? That's just not how it is. And the boomers are so checked out and being like, hey, why don't you take your savings and go buy yourself a house? And it's like, what world are you from? You are so out of reality. Even the Gen Xers are terrible. Only the millennials and younger get it. They're the only ones. Like, there's this whole divide between the boomers and the Gen Xers, and you know, they're in their group, and then the millennials and the Gen Zers. There's this huge divide, a divide that's going to cause like a huge bloodletting in the future politically, and they have no clue. They have no clue what's going to happen. People are like concerning themselves with the Trump-Harris election. They're thinking that this is the most important one. No, the next election is everything. Because Gen Z basically is going to have the opportunity at bat, basically, and when it comes to voting, and they're getting to the point where they're going to start caring about these things. I mean, what did I do tonight? From 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., what did I personally do? Do you know what I was doing? I was knocking on doors, okay? Houses. Hey, would you support these candidates? With people in my local community, for local political organizations That's what I was doing. And I have, some young people, some ego hackers with me going every step of the way. And we are looking into doing our best to try to preserve the great conservative values of this community as much as possible. And, and we have this one issue that we care about. We're not talking to people about Trump. We're not talking to people about Harris. We don't care about that. It's just one important issue to the community that if we lose the community. That's basically our perspective. And we're literally every night walking out there in public, knocking on houses, trying to get as many houses as we can before the election, especially the unaffiliated voters. There's people that register Democrat, there's people that register Republican, and we're going to the unaffiliated voters and trying to get this handled, right? As much as possible, because the situation is just that bad. But here's the thing. Why is this relevant? Why does this matter? When you talk about P. Diddy is an effect, not a cause. And people need to remember that. When it comes to how terrible society is right now, P. Diddy is an effect of how terrible society is. Want to know what the problem actually is? You want to know what the root problem is? Go to Netflix and watch the documentary Generation Wealth. Mm-hmm. You will learn real quick what the root cause is of the corruption here within this society. You know what's really crazy about Generation Wealth? They're literally interviewing people in Generation Wealth at the most famous whorehouse of Berlin. Do you know what that whorehouse is famous for? The NSDAP, also known as the Nazi Party, utilized that whorehouse as their headquarters. Okay? Mm-hmm. And it just goes to show that when you're looking at opulence, when you're looking at corruption, when you're looking at just these absolute terrors that children are being subjected to within the United States of America, it's not something that's gone away. It's not something that's gone away. And the thing is that Americans are entirely asleep to it. But they don't have a choice. They're too busy trying to make rent. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. See?
Well, I think the best thing you said there was that you are trying to affect things from a city or local standpoint. Most people think too big when it comes to that. Like, the biggest change is going to be the people that you vote in your city for mayor and things of that nature. While people are too focused, I think people are too stupid. They think that Trump or Kamala Harris is the one that really does everything for you. But it's usually going to be those people at your state and local that are really going to be changing your life. So what you're doing there is wonderful, man. I think everybody should actually realize that. Hey, local.
People don't realize just how easy it is. If you can organize a group of young people, you can easily identify which seats in the local county, local city, or local municipalities in your locale, and see all these so-called positions where people are running unopposed, and then you just collude with one another, political party or not, who cares, and just collude. And then you get that position of power, and you can start making changes according to what your group is colluding to do with your own goals. It's stupidly simple, but nobody sees this. No one cares because, again, people are too busy trying to make rent. People are too busy trying to feed themselves. People are too busy trying not to die. People are too busy dealing with the fact that if a woman is college educated, she has a 90% chance of divorcing you. That's what they're dealing with. See, or by the fact that 2030, over half of working age women from ages 18 to 40 or 45 will be alone. Okay, this is some scary statistics, and this is what the average American person is actually having to deal with. Okay, I can't make rent. I can't field myself. I'm going to get a divorce. I'm completely fucked. Do you think they have time to pay attention to sex trafficking? Do you think they have time to pay attention to P. Diddy? Do you think they have time to pay attention to anything else other than what's in front of them? No, because we have destroyed the buying power of the American citizen. Mm-hmm. They don't have the ability. Inflation, that's why they print money. They print money and they tax us at the same time. I don't understand why everyone thinks that this is fair. It's because Mind Temple just needs to go. Mind Temple. Who is Mind Temple? Barack Obama, Mitt Romney, Ron Paul, okay, Bernie Sanders. They're all Mind Temple types, all of them. Every single one. Kamala Harris is mind temple.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Joe Biden is mind temple. Mind temple is cognitive origin of authority from a psychological perspective. These are the people who seek power and do their best to keep power, right?
The SI.
That's the problem. It's a huge problem. It's a huge mind temple bias when it comes to politics.
But
mind temple is most easily corrupt.
Do you think those people are just gonna rise to the top organically anyways? Like the people who seek power are gonna be in power. You know, it's kind of like the people who do well with women are the people who seek out talking to women. You know, it's kind of like that same effect. It's like there's gonna be an inherent bias in that process because the people who seek power are the ones who are gonna get those seats. You know.
Well, I think a lot of times you got to be affiliative to make it up there to a certain degree because you got to do what's right. And you can't like do too many things that kind of shake the boat too much, right?
Well, hold on. Rand Paul, the son of Ron Paul. Ron Paul's an INFP. Rand Paul's an ISTP. He is pragmatic, right? Mm-hmm. So what do you do then, right? That's the thing. John F. Kennedy, John F. Kennedy, he was an ESTJ, okay? Again, the more like Mitt Romney type of person, right? Even though Mr. Mitt Romney is a milquetoast kind of guy. But like John F. Kennedy was like willing to like shake things up, right? But like you have Justin Trudeau, guess what? He's an ESTJ. You see, like Gavin Newsom, he's an INFP. These are all mind temple people. Nancy Pelosi, same thing. Mind temple. Once again, there's a huge mind temple bias. Jeffrey Epstein is mind temple.
ESTJ.
He is an ESTJ. Where you look at Ghislaine Maxwell, she's an ENTJ, right? I knew a woman. I dated a woman at one point in time, and I started to suspect that she was going to the local strip clubs and stripping behind my back while I was dating her. Why? Because I suspected that she was going to those strip clubs specifically to recruit girls to be trafficked. I suspected this. I broke up with her. I didn't want to have anything to do with her after that or whatever. And then all of a sudden she moves from fucking Colorado and then like into Oregon or whatever and moves all these different states or whatever. It's almost as if she was on the run or something or whatever. And then she tries to scam me out of money and like, my friend, my ISFP friend and I actually like catch her in the act doing it or whatever. And like, we just got rid of her. Then all of a sudden she ends up, oddly enough, inside of moving into like my best friend's home, which was like a shock to the point where I stopped being best friends with him. I ended our relationship entirely. I ended my relationship with this man because I'm like, dude, you got to stay away from her. And then I felt betrayed by him for being supportive to her because he apparently didn't support our breakup or whatever because he believed everything that she told him because he was sipping for her or whatever. That's the
thing with men, if this comes around, they ain't your friend, man. You got to really watch guys. Like,
yes,
this comes around.
White knight for the dumb bitches all the time, and that's what he did. He white knighted for. But you know what the real tragedy is? You know what the real tragedy is? Not too long after that, he ended up killing himself.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You see what I'm saying? And
that's crazy.
Story here with the ENTP. It's always the same shit. Crazy story, like it's a movie, bro.
Jesus Christ.
My life is a movie, that's for sure. So like that ended up happening, okay? And it's like, and then like I started questioning myself, oh my God, did she like blackmail him or something? Like, was he involved in her little sex trafficking bullshit? Was she a sex trafficker? I don't know any of this. I don't know for sure. But like I suspected that something weird was going on. She'd talk about how she'd go to like these strip clubs or whatever and talk to girls or whatever. Wait, and then I started to realize.
How did you meet her? I want to know this.
How did I meet her? Yeah. She randomly, she slid in my DMs on Instagram. That's how I met her.
Okay. I'm like, how did you meet this person? Just stripper,
so like,
you had to be a strip club or something?
No, absolutely not. No. I've only been to a strip club one time in my whole life. Yeah. And like I had the most horrible epiphany at that strip club. Mm-hmm. Like I had this strip club story. It's a little CSJ lore, but basically like I ended up going to the SHOT Show in Vegas because I was an arms dealer and manufacturer in those days. and I was building weapons, making absolute minimum legal length bullpup shotguns, basically 12 gauge magazine and drum fed 12 gauge shotguns, and selling them to police departments for the riot gear. Very fantastic product. They're called Kushna Pups. I recommend it. KUSHNAPUP. Check it out. They don't make them anymore, but they're pretty dope ass bullpup shotguns based on the Sega 12 model, IZ109 specifically. I was at the SHOT Show. And then, like, my business partner and his brother decided to take me to a strip club that night. And I'd never been to a strip club in my life. And, like, I walk into a strip club, and then, like, there I am. And, I mean, like, I was inside there, and I was just like, what the hell is this? And there, I didn't know what to expect. And it's like all these girls, like, throwing themselves at you for the sake of money. And I'm like, and this is what Generation Wealth actually talks about. You're seeing like strippers literally on the ground, like trying to grab as much cash as they can, you know, crawling on the ground literally. And it's the most disgusting thing you've ever seen. And like, I had some huge epiphanies about life and our culture literally as a result of going to that strip club. And I never been to a strip club ever again. I swear I'd never go again.
I don't like them. I don't like, as Christian, I don't like shit. Like, I just don't like strip clubs. I feel like it's really hard for me to be in the moment.
They should be
like not for me.
I personally believe they're illegal. You know, most people are like, oh, Mr. CSJ, now you're getting in the way of our freedom. You know, this is a free country. And it's like, okay, if it really is a free country, does that mean you have the right to exercise your freedom such that other people end up being abused? This is the thing. Like certain industries should just not exist. And strip clubbing is definitely one of them. They really shouldn't exist. You know, and like this woman would like kind of like brag about it and just be like, oh, you know, I talk to other girls, you know, at the strip clubs. I network with them. And I'm like thinking to myself, is this what Ghislaine Maxwell does? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, and then I realized I have this crazy epiphany. Like, who are the madams? What psyche is the madams? NTJ women. NTJ women. They're the ones who are very willing to sell their fellow girls downriver. Ghislaine Maxwell's the ENTJ, right? Oh, the madams, you psychoanalyze them, it's INTJ, consistently. It's like the INTJ is the boots on the ground, but it's the ENTJ that's the mastermind of the whole operation. And it's absolutely terrible. So when you actually start looking at like these dark corners of society, and you actually look at the people running and executing and who's the boots on the ground, you psychoanalyze all these people, you start to see a real pattern. You start to see a real pattern. It's to the point, actually, like working with, because I work with political organizations, I work with lawyers for jury selection. If you ever seen that movie Runaway Jury, where they stack the jury basically in favor of the case, I get hired all the time to psychoanalyze juries and help lawyers stack their juries to be the most favorable outcome for their particular case, right? Yeah. Runaway Jury entirely explores this concept, especially for big cases, right? Well, you know, that happens all the time. But then when you look at these particular industries, right, these so-called industries like the strip club or whatever, it's the same people being involved. It's the same crap over and over. The same type, the same psyches of people who are acting like pimps, right? Or the madame or whatever. It's the same crap every time. Just like how, you know, if you're an ISTP, you're more statistically likely to have done more drugs than any of the other 16 types. Or how you're an ENFP, you're statistically most likely to sell the most drugs.
Really? I would say most likely to try drugs would be an NE user.
No.
You see MGK, all those guys. What's the guy who said he did acting for damn near a year? Very famous Osborne. What's his name? He is God, I can't remember his fucking name, but the motherfucker can barely talk now. Cannot remember his fucking name. Famous ENTP. Ozzy
Osbourne?
Yeah, he did acid for an entire, like, a whole year. Who the fuck does that shit? You said he want to see what?
I maintain that's cognitive origin of or deadly sin of gluttony, which means that he's more body temple, and I think he's more of an SI user. So I think it's possible he's an INTP similar to the Weekend, basically. So I don't know, but like from my perspective, and this is my point of view, take it for what you will. INFJs, ESTPs, because Soul Temple, they love numbing themselves their pain, and ISTPs are the highest drug users of all the 16 types, hands down, you know? But then, like, when you look at, like, sex trafficking or whatever, it's always the NTJ women doing it, and they're doing it for the ESTJ and INFP men.